It's 5:30 a.m. and what you hear in the background that sounds like cats being strangled to death is like 5 or 6 different mosques and their calls to prayer. Can you imagine waking up to this every day of your life at 5:30?
Alright, so this is the old city wall that goes all the way around ancient Constantinople, because this would have been built by the Romans, right? When they made it the Byzantine. Oh, even before the Romans.
Yes.
Wow. These go on for miles, don't they? Oh, they're double. You can see where there's 2 layers. And there's some moat
3 layers.
3. Yep, I see the shorter one now.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. That is cool. And there's a string section.
And here is the Yerkul Fortress, also known as the Fortress of the Seven Towers, on the southern section of the Theodosian walls, where foreigners could be imprisoned and even tortured if they fell afoul of the Sultan's good graces.
A little shot of the seaside here with all the ships. Are these ships waiting to come into port? Is that why there's so many of them?
Yes, they're waiting for port.
Staging for port space.
Or maybe they are just parked for waiting for a load.
Okay. And then here's part of the ancient city wall here too, where it came down in the water.
That is pretty cool.
There's another big intact stretch of the wall there.
This is the tip of the semi-island of ancient city now.
Right?
The lighthouse.
And that's the Golden Horn.
Bosphorus, and
Oh, that's
the other side
Bosphorus.
is the Asian side.
Okay.
And that's the Asian side.
Here's the wall runs all along the ocean front. They must have built this road outside of the wall,
Yes,
right? Because the
yes.
wall would have gone right up to the water.
Yes.
That's the Suliham, right?
Yeah, Süleyman.
Süleyman.
Süleymaniye. Built by Emperor Süleyman.
And this is the Galata Tower.
Yes.
That was originally a watchout tower for the poets.
Yes.
But
There's a
then-
small restaurant up there.
Yep, and a nightclub now. But it was made into a prison after it was a watchtower for a while. So, yeah.
It is suitable.
So that'd be bad to be in prison and to be able to see everything around you.
Yes.
Yeah, it was kind of like mocking. That'd be the worst way to be in prison.
This is the front of Dolmabahce Palace. This was built in the late 1800s by one of the last sultans that moved out here from the Topkapi Palace, which is in the heart of the city. And if you can see it there inside, if I can make it focus, that is this is the world's largest chandelier. And then this is the view of the palace on the ocean here. This is the inside of the Haghia Sopia. The cathedrals on this site, they date from over 2,000 years back. However, in the Nike Revolution of 532 AD, the cathedral on this site was burned to the ground, and this cathedral was constructed by the Emperor Justinian to replace it in the 500s. It was later converted to a mosque by the Ottomans when they conquered Istanbul, and is now a museum.
What you see on the dome is not normal wear and tear, but the Ottomans intentionally scraped off the images of Christ next to Mary when they converted the church to a mosque after 1453.
This square here is the point where Byzantine emperors were coronated. The gold dome above originally had Christian images, which were replaced by this Arabic calligraphy from the Quran. The mihrab in the middle was added when Hagia Sophia was converted from a church to a mosque to mark the direction of Mecca for prayers. When it was converted to a mosque, Christian images would have been stripped or covered. This one apparently was covered, and part of it was restored. It's a beautiful mosaic, and this is what it would have looked like in its whole. You can see the Sultan's Lodge on the left and the mihrab that was added to point the way to Mecca. This is the outside of Hagia Sophia. Not nearly as impressive it is from the inside. The minarets were a later addition, much later addition after the Ottoman conquest to what was a Christian church built under Emperor Justinian in the 500s. The minarets were used for the criers to call people to prayer. It gave them an elevated vantage point so they could project out further to call the Muslims to prayer 5 times a day. This is more of the outside of Hagia Sophia. This construction goes back over 1,400 years, except for the minarets that were added by the Ottomans. This is the front of the Hagia Sophia. Christian cathedral converted into a mosque. And as you can see, it's directly across the square from the Blue Mosque, which was built by some of the same masons that worked on the Taj Mahal. Cistern underneath the Basilica that was designed to supply water for it. It's the size of several football fields. And as you can see, not only has water, but fish. The Basilica Cistern was lost for centuries. It was forgotten and unknown about until city officials heard stories of people pulling up drinking water and even fish with buckets lowered through holes in the floors of their houses. And with excavation, they found the massive cistern system. This vast cistern was laid out in 532 by Emperor Justinian, primarily to meet the growing water demands of the great palace above, nearby. These columns not only support the weight of the roof, but the city street is right above us, with buildings, shops, hotels, and restaurants The cistern not only supports its own roof weight, but the weight of the street above.
It was built in AD 330 to celebrate the inauguration of Constantine's new capital in Istanbul. It was originally topped with a statue of Augustine dressed as Apollo, which fell in the storm in 1106 and was never restored. Inside the base of the column, allegedly, is the axe which Noah used to build the ark, the flask that held the oil Mary Magdalene used to anoint Christ, and leftovers from the loaves when Jesus fed the 5,000. The second.
His claim to fame was eliminating the Janissaries, the elite Sultan Guard that refused to be reformed and even assassinated sultans who attempted. So Mahmud finally had them all killed on June 15th of 1826.
This is the first time I've ever been in a Islamic gravesite. They have this distinct style with two pillars coming out of the area that contains the casket. I'm not sure what the significance of the two pillars is, but they all seem to be in this style with Arabic inscriptions on the columns.
I'm standing in the Hippodrome in Istanbul, Turkey, a square that is just full of history. What is amazing about this place is not just what you can see here, but what you can't see. What I mean is, back in the 4th century, there was rivals to be the Roman emperor, and the city residents of Istanbul sided against Septimus Severus, who did become the emperor. And as a result, he came and nearly destroyed Istanbul and then rebuilt it in the 4th century. On this site, he built a stadium that could seat 100,000 people that was dedicated to athletic events, but primarily to chariot racing. Since it was a racing stadium, it wouldn't be too much of a stretch to call it the Daytona Motor Speedway or the Indianapolis 500 of the Roman Empire. Now, to put that in perspective, 100,000 seats. In America, there's only a handful of stadiums that could seat 100,000 people, and that's with modern technology of cranes and bulldozers. This was built in the 300s. The other thing that happens here that the peacefulness of today would certainly not indicate was in AD 532, speaking of chariot racing, there was two rival chariot racing teams that ended up starting a brawl which turned into a citywide riot in which much of the city was destroyed, including the famous Haghia Sopia church, whose dome you can barely see there above the tree line. The Emperor Justinian had to have the revolution put down using paid mercenaries, and on this site 30,000 people were slain by the mercenaries here in the Hippodrome. Now let me tell you a little bit about what you do see. This column here, this obelisk, Constantine brought it from Luxor, Egypt. It's 1,500 years old, where it stood outside the pyramids in Egypt. And Constantine had it brought here to celebrate his new city of Constantinople, the new capital of the Roman Empire. As you can see at the base there, it's supported on a stand because it was broken. As tall as this obelisk is, it's only 1/3 of the original obelisk. The final thing that you don't see here is this empty spot here. There was a third column that was toppled during the Fourth Crusade in the 1200s. On top of that column, there was 4 bronze horses of exquisite workmanship. In fact, they were so beautiful that the Crusaders tore down the column and took the horses to St. Mark's Basilica in Venice, where they're now on display on the outer balcony of the Basilica. So this is kind of a coming full circle for me because we were in Venice and we saw the horses there at St. Mark's. I knew that they were captured in a crusade and brought there from elsewhere. I didn't realize until I came here that this very spot right here is where the horses came from. So it's kind of fascinating as a personal caveat for myself. Then the last thing you see here is peeking above the tree lines is the minarets from the Blue Mosque, and we're going to go there now. I'm here inside the exquisite Blue Mosque here in Istanbul. The mosque was built by Sultan Ahmet I starting in 1609. In the 1600s, the Ottoman Empire was in a period of decline. So this would have been a stretch to build at that day and time. In that sense, you might think of it as stimulus spending, something that we're very familiar with in America. As you can see, there's a railway here to prevent people from coming into the prayer area. And the significance of that is if someone inadvertently walks in front of a Muslim while he's saying his prayers toward Mecca, which is oriented toward the Mishrab there, points toward Mecca. Anyway, if you walk in front of them, they have to restart their prayers from the beginning, which, since the prayers take about 15 minutes, that could be quite a interruption. So the first time you do it, you might be forgiven. The second time, it might be grounds for a fight. So just to prevent that from inadvertently happening, to have this railway here to keep people out of the prayer area. Just kind of panning around here, you can see the calligraphy in Arabic taken from the Quran on the dials here. Now you can compare this to the Haghia Sopia across the square from here, which was originally built as a Christian church and converted to a mosque, and large wooden dials with calligraphy were added to the existing structure. But here, in a purpose-built mosque, they're intentionally inlaid from the beginning.
Then you may notice these low-hanging chandeliers similar to what you saw in Hagia Sophia, and the significance of that is these were built hundreds of centuries before the invention of electricity, so they were designed to be filled with candles that could be lit by someone on a step stool, and hence their proximity to the floor.
I'll give you a close-up of some of the stained glass here, and maybe as I zoom in, yeah, there you go. The camera will automatically adjust the contrast to catch some of the color in the glass there. Absolutely beautiful. The guide let me down here in the prayer area, right here by the minarah, which points toward Mecca. And you can see here up close how intricate this is. Right here down at the front where the people say they're. This is the main door, which us foreign infidels were not allowed to pass through. We had to come in through a side door over there. And here you see the chandeliers, which are rather plain. But then up above, the really beautiful tile work. Now, some of the masons that worked on this mosque were the same masons that worked on the Taj Mahal. I'll give you a close-up here of some of the stained glass. Here's the outside of the magnificent Hagia Sophia that was built as a cathedral in the 500s by Emperor Justinian, and later converted into a mosque, and now converted into a museum. As you can see, it's directly across this beautifully landscaped square from the Blue Mosque.
Sultan Mehmet II began building Topkapi Palace in 1459, shortly after his conquest of Istanbul. Like the Forbidden City in Beijing, it's part palace, part fortress.
This pavilion was built in the 1600s to celebrate military victory of one of the sultans.
After Sultan Mehmet II completed the palace in 1465, pavilions continued to be added for over 400 years by later sultans, usually to celebrate significant military victories, until Sultan Abdülmecit I abandoned Topkapi entirely in 1853 in favor of a grand palace that he built himself further outside of Istanbul.
This is a beautiful room, but what happens here is not necessarily so beautiful because this is the circumcision room. This pavilion is called the Baghdad Pavilion because it was built to commemorate Sultan Murad's defeat and conquering of Baghdad in 1638. We're outside on the backside of Topkapi Palace, and you see all these various pavilions. The first one I showed you was the Baghdad Pavilion. That was to commemorate the Sultan's victory over Baghdad. This was another pavilion to commemorate another victory. So apparently later on in the later sultans, whenever they had significant military victories, they would celebrate it by adding on a pavilion to the Topkapi Palace.
This is one of the last pavilions that was added to Topkapi Palace before it was abandoned in 1853. Unlike the other pavilions that were celebrating military victories, as you can see through the windows here, this pavilion overlooked large playing fields where sultans could sit in this pavilion and watch the athletic events. In that sense, this might very well be the world's first instance of box seats for the rich and famous.
This is the library of Ahmet III that was constructed in 1719. As you may notice, there are no books. They've all been removed and are stored in a mosque now.
Take note of the gold screen, which I'll comment on in a moment. Although the Sultan was the political and religious ruler of the empire, he did have ministers of state called viziers that would meet here to counsel on foreign and domestic affairs. The Sultan could come down behind that screen and basically eavesdrop on the meeting and make sure all decisions were satisfactory.
This is the courtyard. It is the entryway to the Sultan's harem.
On the left here are apartments that were occupied by black eunuchs who were the guards of the Sultan's harem. The apartments were stationed here near the only entrance and exit for convenient observation of the way in and out.
This was the apartment of the Queen Mother. The member of the concubine that had risen up to become the Sultan's favorite, and then had bore him a son who then became Sultan himself. So this was the place of a woman who escaped slavery, and then through very unfortunate circumstances managed to become a member of the royalty. This is the courtyard of the Queen Mother, where the Queen Mother would have lived in an apartment off this courtyard. And this is a place where the entire family could come together. This is the Sultan's private apartment at Topkapi Palace.
As you've probably noticed by now, Topkapi Palace has beautiful tile work and has well-protected walls. However, it was built in the 1400s and therefore lacked modern conveniences like carpet, electricity, running water. Therefore, it's not too surprising when an era of modern warfare made walled fortifications impractical that Sultan Abdul Mecid would abandon it in favor of Dolmabahce Palace.
Notice the inscriptions from the Quran that run all the way around the room.
Take a moment to look at this beautiful tile work and the lofty dome and ask yourself what this room was probably used for. If you guessed the Sultan's bathroom, you are correct. I'll show you one more room before we move on from Topkapi Palace. This exquisite room was the apartment of the prince. Here you can see the fireplace that would have been used for heating the room. And here is exquisite mother of pearl inlays on the doors. Here we're making our way along the Bosphorus Strait that connects the Black Sea to the Aegean Sea and then on into the Mediterranean. In the background you might hear a hissing sound. That's the brakes of the bus as the driver pumps it furiously. See, although Istanbul has public buses, they're supplemented by private buses. And rather than stick to a schedule, the drivers drive like madmen because the faster they can complete their route, the more money they stand to make.
This is the fortress of Europe. It was built by Mehmet the Conqueror in 1452 as his first step in the process of conquering Istanbul. You see, it sits right here on the Bosphorus Strait, which opens the Black Sea to the Mediterranean Sea. And by putting a castle here, he was able to control shipping on this strait and cut off supplies to Constantinople. Here's an alternative view of the Fortress of Europe taken from down below at street level. and you can see its proximity to the water and how cannons in that high tower could easily control a relatively narrow strait like this, especially if you combine it with the fortifications that are across the way here. Put some supplemental cannons over there.
Immediately after conquering Constantinople, the Ottoman Sultan tried to enact some changes to win the hearts of the people as well as expand the economy. One of the first things that he did was establish the Grand Bazaar, the predecessor to the modern mall.